Hey, we're live. Let's go. All right, let's talk about the good old Memphis Grizzlies. And totally forgot to upload my videos or do a stream yesterday, so we're gonna do double today. And let's get into it. So thanks for clicking on the video. My name's Adam. We're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, doing a little season preview for them today, and talking a little bit about how, hopefully my mic wasn't super crazy there. I'm talking about how I project the Grizzlies to do this year. We're going to talk a little bit about these four things on screen: offseason moves, salary cap situation, rotations, and win total. Before we get into it, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and then also click the like button. Tell me where I'm wrong about the Grizzlies in the comment section, or where I'm right, because I actually have this team at number 10, which is I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the Grizzlies, but let's jump into it here. So first, I do want to talk about the offseason for the Grizzlies. They were relatively active. We all know about the trade that sent Steven Adams to the Grizzlies. Also, Eric Bledsoe was sent to the Grizzlies that then was shipped out to the Clippers. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Steven Adams, though, with the Grizzlies, they also picked up Jared Culver, Chris Dunn, Carson Edwards, Sam Merrill, and Daniel Otoru. So this is a team that has a lot of roster spots on their team. We'll break the rotation here in a moment. But as for kind of what they did in their trade market, I think Memphis did the right thing. The Valanciunas trade was really interesting because he is a player that most normal NBA fans, the normies, won't really appreciate, won't really understand why he's good and what he does on the floor. But a lot of like the hardcore fans, they're like, oh yeah, Jonas Valanciunas, he was really that guy that a lot of people love to just say, hey, like this dude's one of the most underrated and disrespected players in the league, like him and Drew Holiday and like other players around the league. Like they're just disrespected. They're way better than what people give them credit for. But now, and so when this trade happened, everybody was going to take that side of like, oh, why would the Grizzlies do this? They're so stupid. The way that I think of it is that, Valanciunas is 20, I think he's 28 or 29, and his contract was due to be re-upped. They needed to extend him, and I think they elected to basically say, look, you're you're reaching your 30s as a center in the league. We don't want to pay you a whole lot of money. We got young players that we feel like could kind of benefit from maybe you not playing here anymore. Now, again, I'm not a huge Valanciunas hater, but I think it was the right move because, again, you're avoiding having to pay the guy a lot of money. Now we'll see if even the Pelicans want to do that. There is a scenario where the Pelicans have another weird season and Valanciunas isn't the answer for a big next to Zion, and it turns into a situation where maybe New Orleans doesn't even pay him, and then his stock is extremely low, and unfortunately for him, he wouldn't get paid. So hopefully that doesn't happen for his sake, but I do see that like scenario popping out. Again, you can't, when a guy's approaching his 30s, you can't pay him unless he's like an all-star level caliber kind of a player, and Valanciunas is good. He's really good, but I don't think he's like that tier of player that you got to keep even when he's like approaching his 30s. So Steven Adams, I feel like, can kind of bump into that role. Maybe he's like 70 to 80% of what Valanciunas provided. We'll see. Culver, interesting player that they bring in from Minnesota. He just didn't pan out in Minnesota. You wonder exactly if the Timberwolves wanted, like, they just weren't patient enough with him. So if that was the case, then I think the Grizzlies could potentially get a steal here. But if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. They didn't give away anything crazy. Again, this was the Patrick Beverley trade. So interesting young player to add there. I'm not going to really talk too much about their other drafted or traded players. I do want to talk about their picks. Santi Aldama, I think, was a real big reach when they made that trade with the Utah Jazz. Won't talk too much about him, but I do want to get to Zaire Williams. Williams looks okay. He was okay in the summer league. He wasn't like super standout great, but what he was is, again, another one of these young players that they can have in reserve for if they want to move off of somebody in the future. We'll kind of talk a little bit more about how their rotations will look and what it might look like for Zaire in his first year in the NBA. But another kind of just player they can develop and take their time with. And if he blows up and is great, awesome. But if he doesn't, again, what did you really give up for him? In 3 years, you could say Zaire Williams he was a steal. We were sleeping on him. And then you could say, well, Jonas Valanciunas is getting older and he's not what he once was. So long-term planning is what Memphis is doing here. Memphis lost Grayson Allen, Patrick Beverley, Eric Bledsoe, Mark Gasol. They ended up waiving. Juancho Hernan-Gomez, Sean McDermott, Jonte Porter, Rajon Rondo, Jonas Valanciunas, and Justice Winslow. So they did lose a lot of names here, but they also kind of filled them in with some good players. So I just feel like Memphis will be all right in the end. This team still revolves around Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, and Dillon Brooks, and Kyle Anderson. So I think they'll be fine. So I like their offseason. I'll probably give it like a B. We'll just leave it at that. But let's jump over to their cap sheet here. So this is the Memphis Grizzlies cap sheet. Again, they're paying Steven Adams about $34 million over the next couple of years. Maybe a little high, for sure. I'm totally with that. But the other thing I want to mention with the Grizzlies is that they have this ability to be able to pay their players a high dollar amount because their main players, Jaren Jackson and John Morant, are making a combined $18 million. A combined about $19 million, it looks like. So, they can get away with these bad contracts. And I don't want to hear anyone being like, oh, Steven Adams is a horrible contract and it's not worth it and all these different things. Look, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Dillon Brooks, $23 million over the next couple of years. He's good. I like what he provided last season. I don't know how big or how high his ceiling is in the NBA, but he definitely provides something for this team. And Kyle Anderson had a kind of a breakout year, if you will, last season. Just another good, lengthy, solid forward for the team that can pass, that can, I think, defend with, just with his height and his length. I think he's a solid defender. I think he's kind of another point guard on the floor with Ja. And I just think a good player to have. Jaren Jackson, I think, is probably going to be the guy who breaks out this year for this team. Remember, he was injured for a lot of last year and didn't come back until later in the year. And so a full season of Jaren Jackson and John Morant, I feel like, can help this team and make it so they're going to be relatively good. But again, we'll kind of talk about why I have them at 10 in a minute. Tyus Jones, Jarrett Culver. So you look at this roster here, there's not a whole lot of tradable contracts, like contracts where, we got to get off that. Players where it's like, I don't think this guy's a really good fit, and so we got to move him. They are building a team that's really solid, that is not expensive, and that they hope will be a team that can make it to the playoffs. And yeah, so nothing, like, I look at their cap sheet, it's beautiful to me. I think they're paying everybody about what they should, and the players that they're getting, like, the worst deal, I guess, in a way you could say, are Ja and Jaren Jackson, but that's because they're on their rookie deals. So pretty good stuff from Memphis. I like how their front office is kind of running and doing their thing. But let's kind of get into why I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, or at least they'll be in this play-in bracket, if you will. But let's talk about where I think the Grizzlies stand here. Hoops Hype has their starting five as the following: John Morant, Dillon Brooks, Kyle Anderson, Jaren Jackson, Steven Adams. Their backups, or the reserves here, are Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, who I didn't mention, but I think he played really good in Summer League. I think he's kind of the next dude as far as like one of these dudes on the bench of a good team. I think he can take a jump. Zaire Williams, Xavier Tillman, and Brandon Clark, who are interesting players. Again, the youth, the lack of a second good scorer. Like, I know Dillon Brooks went off in that first round series a little bit against the Jazz, in some games at least, but I don't know if Brooks is that kind of a player for the whole season. That's where I kind of say, if Ja can't become a 3-leveled scorer, if he can only just shoot these floaters, if he can only go to the basket, and he can't really hit that outside shot consistently, then I kind of think this team is limited offensively. I think they're talented. They're, again, a young, hungry core of players, but I don't necessarily see them blowing up and taking a next huge jump. I thought that there was a potential move that they could make in the offseason that brought them a good player that would make them better, but they elected to not do that. They elected to say, we'll play for the future. And that's fine, but you have to understand that when you do that, obviously the immediate results may not be to your liking. So, it is what it is with Memphis. So Memphis is at 41 wins. I will take the over on this. I think it's an appropriate number. I think it's probably 42 or 43 for this team this year. And I think that's pretty good. But it's not good enough of where I have teams 9 and 8 and 7. I have those teams better than this team. So I know, again, we've talked in the West about Minnesota, Sacramento, San Antonio, Houston, and Oklahoma City. So the teams I didn't mention in there are the teams that I'm putting ahead of Memphis. So we'll go over, obviously, in those videos, we'll talk about, where we're putting everybody in the standings. But I just think those next 3 teams ahead of Memphis are better than Memphis. So that's why I have Memphis at 10. A little shocking. So let's see what happens there. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Feel free to comment on the video. Tell me that Ja is going to go be MVP this year. Tell me that Jaren Jackson's going to be Defensive Player of the Year, all that fun stuff. But that's it for the video. I'm going to make a few more tonight here. Feel free to check out the other videos. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, all that fun stuff. And I will see you in the next video.